Shalom. Boker tov. Mashlomcha. Oh, this is not a Hebrew class. This is an English class. But I wanted to greet you in another language. That's probably one of the things that we'll do throughout all the slides. Greet you in another language. So, this is using history to understand race in America. Lesson 1. Where it all began, 15th century. So, each lesson we will feature a contribution made by an African American. So, this course has two focuses. One is what African Americans have done to contribute to the American society, and two, what has happened to African Americans or what America has done to enslaved Africans. So we often start with one feature. We feature one person or a group of people. So we'll start today with Joshua Johnson. Joshua Johnson lived from 1763 to 1826. He was a enslaved African. He was born a slave in Maryland. He was a portrait painter, and he described himself as a self-taught genius. He's done lots of work. This is one of the few black men who actually had a job as an artist during the 18th century. This is another piece of work that he's done. Pay close attention to the details. And some would think that this was a self-portrait. Not really sure how he looked, but this comes close. We will also cover in this course Common Core standards. Not every lesson will have it, but most of them will. The learning outcomes: at the conclusion of this lesson, students will be able to identify physical evidence that prove Africa's presence in America before Christopher Columbus. There is one thing that bothered me, or that I was confused about while I was going to school, and that was this word century. I often thought if you go from 1 to 100, that's a century. That would be the first century. But actually, that is not the first century. The first century starts from 0 to 99. That's the first century. So you have 0 to 99, first century. 1200 to 1299, you would think it would be the 12th century, but it's not. It's the 13th century. As you go on, you understand. Now, we also will do a little bit of Latin in this course, and AD is shortened form of Anno Domini Nostri Jesu Christi. That is, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what AD stands for. It's a shortened version, AD, Anno Domini, okay? And so that's something that I was afraid to ask when I was going to school. And so just in case you were the same way, I wanted to explain that. Some more Common Core standards. Continue. And we want to look at, first of all, our perception of Africa is skewed. Now, the word skew means to make biased or distorted in a way that is regarded as inaccurate, unfair, or misleading. So, I want to focus on the misleading part. Misleading part. This was the education of Americans. I'm not going to focus on people outside of America, but this was the focus for Americans to skew our perception of Africa. One of the ways they did that is through comic books. You see this Tarzan comic book, I don't know, 30s, maybe 40s, this comic book came out. And it was a white man taming or bringing civilization to animals and other animals, which they call Africans. Also, they also came out with a movie or a TV series, Tarzan. So all of a sudden, you got a group of children that their view of Africa is black people walking around uncivilized, no direction until a white man comes and gives them direction. And he's fearless because he lives among the animals and the savages. So, this is how our perception of Africa begins. Next, they depict Africa as one country. Africa is not a country, it's a continent. And it's very different. I picked this picture because it's different colors. And the different colors represents the diversity of the African continent. As you see, Algeria is quite different than Ethiopia, and Egypt is quite different than Nigeria. So all of these places are different. Some were more advanced civilization, has more of advanced civilization than others, but nevertheless, they were all different. So they mislead us by saying, hey, they're all savages and they're all the same. So we want to debunk that. Also, I don't know if you take a look at the map on the left. It's called the World Political Map. You see it? This is what comes to our mind mostly when we think of the world, the known world as we know it. Take a look at this. This shapes your mind at an early age. If you went to school, or regardless if you went to school, anytime you study geography, this is the map, the one on the left. This is the map that is often put before us. Now, the one on the right looks deformed. It doesn't look right. But in actuality, did you know that Africa's true size is 30 million square kilometers? Okay, the true size is 30 million square kilometers. Now compare that to all of North America, which includes Canada, United States, and everything above, is 24.71 million square kilometers. Wait a minute, take a look at that. You mean to tell me Africa is bigger than all of North America? Actually, yes it is. But if you look at the map on the left, the United States looks almost as big as Africa. And the United States is 9.8 square kilometers. Take a look at 9.8 and compare it to 30 million. 9.8 million compared to 30 million. Something is wrong here. But our perception is we will reject the real picture that depicts the actual square mileage or square kilometer and accept the lie, the misleading of how big the United States is, how small this Africa is. Now they've elongated South America, but South America is only 17.8 kilometers. It should not be bigger than Africa. And Asia is 44.5 square kilometers. So Asia is the biggest continent. But in this map here, you got Russia, but I don't know if they do depict Asia better here, but they don't depict Africa, which is the second largest continent. So, perception of what they tell us Africa's about, then they tell us it's the same. Then we learn from this map, from pictures, that Africa is small and the United States is big. Do you know 4.5? So if you do 4 times 9, 3 times 9, at least 3 United States can fit in the continent of Africa. Now take a look at that left picture. Do you think 3 of those United States can fit in that little small Africa? Okay, we see another myth being debunked, and that was that Africans were poor and they were savage and they were unintelligent. They were stupid. But what we find is it was Columbus who had sent samples of this metal, and it had 18 parts gold, 6 silver, and 8 copper. That means they were able to melt this stuff down and put this stuff together. I don't even know how to do that. There's a science to mixing metals and melting metals, and there's a whole science to that. And so this was definitely an intelligent group of people. Another piece of evidence, I'm on page 14 now, and it says Columbus ended up on a branch of the North Equatorial Current, which took him initially into the Caribbean island, with 3 great rocks, which made him think of the Holy Trinity. He named this island Trinidad. A little more to the south, however, he did not come into the sight of South America mainland. This was August the 1st, 1498. Columbus, for some odd reason, would not land. On this third voyage, he came upon more evidence of the contact between Guinea and the New World. Guinea is a western part of Africa. On Tuesday, August the 7th, the natives brought handkerchiefs of cotton very symmetrically woven and worked in colors like those brought from Guinea, from the river of Sierra Leone, and of no difference. Not only were they alike in style and color, but also in function. These handkerchiefs, he said, resembled almazars, Guinea hairdressers, and loincloths. Each one is a cloth so woven in colors that it appeared an almazar, which with one tied on the head and the other covering the rest. These were the earliest documented traces of the African presence. So we have physical evidence. 1 being that spearhead, 2 being this cloth, and 3 we didn't get to yet, but here is the next one. African presence around the world. Columbus was informed by some men when they stopped at Cape Verde Islands off the coast of Africa that Negroes had been known to set out into the Atlantic from the Guinea coast in canoes loaded with merchandise and steering toward the west. So this debunks another myth, and that was that they were just running around in the jungle with no clothes on. Well, they were navigating, which is sophisticated. They were merchants and they were selling merchandise, and they were going back and forth. So here's another piece of evidence. That may not be the physical evidence because someone said they saw Negroes there, but this is the other physical evidence. They Came Before Columbus is the book that I just read to you. And in that book, we have an Olmec Negroid stone head. And this is present in Mexico. And this was present way before This was present in 1490. Okay, 1490. And this was the head of a Nubian chief from Africa. So when did Christopher Columbus sail? 1492. And this was discovered, well, not discovered, but there's elements of it in 1490 in America. Lila Tov.